Okay. This is an annoying problem to have, but apparently in the YouTube app, if your phone is slightly crooked before you begin, then it just wants you to stream in a vertical orientation the whole time, and I don't want to do that. That sounds awful, and so I just had to end that stream to restart it with a fresh stream, but my fresh stream is not the one that like there was a link to or that has a thumbnail or anything like that. And so kind of frustrating, a little annoying, not my favorite thing, but here we are. Oh, not how I wanted the stream to start. Now I am taking a risk here because I have 4 C stands, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm using one of them to hold my phone here. And because of that, as I set this up, that's going to be one less C stand I have to make this happen, which I don't, which might be a problem. So what we are doing in this stream is getting set up to make a product video. Probably going to be like a can of soda or sparkling water or something, because those are easy and fun, and usually those cans, depending on the can design, react well with light and end up looking kind of cool. So what we need to do is get a product turntable. We need to light it from above, from behind, and from the front and sides in a way that we can set up the camera and rotate it and film it and stuff so that it looks good and we can mess with it in post. There are people on YouTube like Austin Paul, Daniel Schiffer, and others who are really good at this, and I love watching their videos. And I watch their videos and I'm like, hey, I have all that gear. I should do stuff like that. And hopefully this is one of those things in your life, in your career, for me, in my life, in my career, where I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna stumble through it and probably discover 50 mistakes as I do it, but it will feel so much better afterwards. And one day I'll look back and be like, yeah, that was a bad setup and a bad video, but you got to do that one to do the next one, and you got to do that one to do the one after that, and to get really good, you got to do this a whole bunch of times. And so I don't need any of my gear. My next shoot for a client is the 28th, I think. And so that said, I can sort of set this up down here, film with it, and then move around or leave it all set up and go edit stuff and be like, actually, that doesn't look good. I'm going to come back down and move it a little bit. So I can leave this for a week or so and really mess with it. So that is what we're doing today. And starting with our camera, we're shooting with the Sony a7S III. And I have some options for lenses, and I've got my 24-70 f2.8G Master, which is a great standard lens. I use it for everything. But in this situation, I could also use my 90mm macro. And while it doesn't have the flexibility of zoom, it's prime, it can do macro shots, which could look really cool for product photography. And alternatively, excuse me, I have the Laowa probe. I have, excuse me. I also have this guy as an option, and I so seldom use this lens because it's one of the few lenses that is so, cliche is not the right word, but when you use this lens, the shots look like you're using this lens. And so if you do a video and you have like 3 or 4 shots from this lens, it starts to be like, okay, man, we get it. You've got the probe lens. So I'm always a little bit reluctant. It's nice to throw in a shot when it's surrounded by other shots, but it's never my go-to. Like, I'm never excited to use this lens, which is a shame because it's a cool lens. But I think I'm gonna start with the 24 to 70, and we'll leave it around 50 millimeters, just to have sort of a standard shot. We don't want to go fisheye or anything on it, and we're not going to go too telephoto into it, but this will give us some options. And the little thing that I love that I have for down here for filming is Matthews makes these. Yes. If you have a studio or you film on location, I love these things. Matthews makes these, and what these are drop ceiling clamps. And so if you're unfamiliar with what a drop ceiling is one of these, where you have these tiles that are resting in these tracks, and these tracks are attached to the ceiling in some way, like to the actual rafters and stuff. And so you can take one of these guys, and which way does it close? This way it closes. So I can put this on here, and it actually, let me flip the camera around. So this will actually pinch on to here, if I can do it right with one hand. This is not the easiest thing I've done today. But if I can pinch this on, then I have this baby pin it needs no stands, it needs no anything, and that's really convenient. So I'm gonna use these to hang some duvetine as a backdrop, like a black cloth backdrop for this video. And so I'm gonna come over to my drop ceiling over here and clamp this on. Thank you for dealing with the motion sickness associated with this camera motion. There we go. There we go. So now it's on tight. And you can see there's some play in, like, this isn't the strongest thing. So I wouldn't hang a light on here, but I'm gonna end up hanging this piece of cloth. And I have no doubts that that pin can hold that piece of cloth. And so I'm gonna put the other one up, sort of over here a little bit. There we go. So now I've got these two baby clamps that are just stuck to my ceiling that I can mount things to really easily. And that's gonna make this process a lot cleaner. All right, switching back. Thank you for dealing with my camera motion for this live setup. There we go. So, taking two little clamps, set the thermostat to 65 degrees.
Okay, the main floor is set to 65 degrees Fahrenheit.
So I have this piece of duvetine, and I'm gonna hang it vertically from here. And it's just as easy as clamp. And how close was I on this? Oh, that's not so bad. Now, I haven't done this a ton yet, but I know that I don't want wrinkles and stuff in the back of this, so I may end up getting out, I have like a steam mop, and I may steam this, or even take it over to the iron and iron it off, just so that there's no shadows on the backdrop. But looking good with the backdrop, step one. Step two, I'm happy that my table rolls. That's gonna make this a whole lot easier. But my table itself here can roll around, and I built this table, and I'm proud of it. It has held up for like 6 years now, and all I do is treat it poorly. But we're gonna take this guy And let me move some of this monitor stuff. Actually, I'm going to keep the wireless monitor nearby. We may end up using that just to make life easier later. These friction arms away and some extra cables. So I was told last week that if I step away too far from the camera during these streams, you can't hear me. If I'm here, it sounds okay, but as soon as I walk away, it starts to sound bad. And so hopefully next week, I'm streaming with Sean Kirkland, and we're talking about some creativity stuff. And the week after that will probably be something back here in the basement. And by then, I'm getting a wireless lav. I think I'm going to get the Deity Pocket system. That way I can stream and move around without all my audio disappearing as soon as I step away. So thanks for your patience. And hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for dealing with the fake vertical stream followed by the real stream. I appreciate your patience. I'm going to move this around to here and aim it down just a hair. Okay, so we've got a product turntable here, which does exactly what you think. It turns. And so I can set this here and put a product on it, and it'll rotate it at like a perfectly even motion forever if I wanted, which is really nice for getting product photography, or product videography rather, also for photography, depending on what you're doing. This away. So we've got Sony a7S III. We've got a product turntable shooting onto some duvetine back here, just a pure black backdrop. And then what we're gonna do is light it from above, just this blanket of light over the top of it. And then we're also gonna have some light on the back of it to give it a rim, to sort of show the edges to the camera. And then lastly, we'll end up using some little lights here going at the front of it so we can sort of do it, like the key is technically gonna be the overhead, but we'll do two other little side lights to make it have a little bit more shape and happiness. Happiness is the term we'll use. It's the power cord and the remote for the turntable. Now here is the fun part. I'm gonna move this camera back. Thanks for your continued patience with the camera work tonight. I'm doing my best. But if we pull this back, so the light that we'll be using is the Hudson Spider Mosey. I absolutely love this light, and that's why I've made so many videos about it. Now I can use this in a number of ways. I can use it just with the, like, these are the bare LEDs on the front of that. And so right now I'm shooting them into an umbrella and bouncing them back, but I could also just shoot them straight onto the product and they end up looking pretty good. And I may do that even just as a test. The problem, so I love the light that bounces off of the umbrella. Like when it comes out of here, it's beautiful and it wraps around stuff wonderfully. It's gorgeous. But if I'm shooting something shiny on the turntable, this casts this weird shadow that looks like an asterisk because when it's on, here, it's not plugged in. It works a little bit better when it's plugged in. Here we go. Striking. So you can see, like, hitting this here, it casts its own shadow. So the light coming out of here, like if you look at my hand looks beautifully lit. My face looks beautifully lit. You don't see, well, it looks really harshly lit since I'm standing right next to it. But you don't see the shadow in the light that's cast. But if there's any reflections, I mean, you can sort of see it in my pupils a little bit. Getting creepy here. But yeah, this shadow can be a problem. So depending on what products I end up shooting, I may need to rethink my lighting strategy just because I don't want to have a asterisk of a shadow on my project. So for the time being though, I'm gonna go with the umbrella because I love it. And I'm just gonna hope that it ends up looking okay. But so I'm gonna move this C-stand over. I'm gonna unplug this for the time being and put the light in place. By the way, if you're watching the stream, hi. This has been uncharted territory for me, and as I've been doing these live streams, it's a challenge, and the less people that are here, the harder it is, and that's sort of an exciting challenge. Like, that's why I'm doing this, like, to learn and to grow. And if there's a bunch of people and everyone's asking questions and comments, like, that's fun, and it was easy the couple times that that's happened. And then the nights where it's just me, it gets a little quiet and difficult. And so thanks for hanging out and watching. If you have any questions, thoughts, if you just want to say hello, go ahead and throw it in the comments. That goes a long way when I'm alone in my basement. What up, Jay? I like the intro. I can see it. I don't know how long you've been here, Jay, but I'm getting a better microphone so when I walk away, it's not awful. By better microphone, I mean wireless lav. All right, moving a big light into place. Now, the other thing to consider when you're moving lights into place is, where's your stand going to be? Because you don't want to be constantly tripping over your own stands or power cords and stuff. And so I'm going to put this on the far side over there so that this whole side of the table is still free, and that should be better for me. And I'm going to try not to, while streaming live, scrape this on the ceiling like I so often do because I'm too impatient to break it down. Okay. Now the fun part. Oh no, I rigged it to the left. Cardinal rule, broken. So as I'm rigging this up over here, if you don't use C-stands, you never want your weight going counterclockwise. You always want it going clockwise so that if the weight starts to twist it, it doesn't loosen it, it tightens it. But that means I have to sort of flip everything here all at the same time, which isn't the easiest or most fun thing to do, but it's the corner I've backed myself into. Oh. There we go. Rigged to the right. I have to say thank you again. This is some forgiving audience to watch me do something like this. It's kind of a crazy thing that anyone would spend any time watching me do this, and it's I appreciate it. I appreciate you hanging out, so thanks. Now before I extend this arm out, I want to put some sandbags on the bottom so that it doesn't fall over and break the light itself or anything else. I tried to save money by making my own sandbags. Sort of. Like I bought empty shells and then bought a bag of sand and then like filled baggies and then put the baggies in these zippered canvas enclosures and stuff. I should have just bought filled sandbags. That was a pain. And they're all different weights, and now some of them don't work as well as others. Lesson learned. Know your limits with DIY. Okay. So we've got this. And make it a little straighter. Anytime I'm adjusting a light out on a C-stand like this, I never let it go until I'm sure it's balanced, because the last thing you want is to get it all ready and then it just teeters and falls over and breaks your things. And if you haven't done that before, you haven't been doing this for very long. Okay, looking pretty good. You know, in hindsight, I've been scooting this stand over. The table rolls. I probably should have just rolled the table. So now we need some power. That's the last thing that I'm doing down here is running some thoughtful power. I have a couple extension cords just sort of strewn about, but it is not a permanent solution. But I have power that I can put over there and plug into. And there we go. All that. It's happening. So now, to bring you up to speed, we've got the light that's shooting into this umbrella above the stand, going in the duvetine, and we've got the A7S3 here ready to go. So we're getting close, but next we need some backlight. For the backlight, we're going to use our friend, the Quasar Rainbow Q50. Now, this light is awesome. Not as awesome as the Mosey, but that might be disingenuous. It's just a little different. But what I want to do is put it in a way where it's up here, so that way the light can hit the item, whatever's on the table, but not shine right into the lens. So, because I don't want that flare. I don't want to lose that contrast when you shine a light directly in, but I also don't want it to shine too hard on the backdrop. So this might get a little tricky. And I might end up, you know what? Forget the big Quasar. I love you, big Quasar. I don't need you. My drop ceiling gave me another gift. It's magnetic, and these are aperture ALMC, so they're RGB WW lights. It's pink right now. It's just too bright to tell. There you can see it shines pink light on the ceiling. I use these when I sit on this stool and do my talking head videos down here. Rather than set up a hair light, I just clip these on overhead, and they shine down onto my shoulders and make a nice, lovely rim light. Because they're magnetic, it's really easy to just stick them to this strip of metal. But I'm just going to take one of these and have this serve as my backlight. And that's going to be way easier than rigging up a Quasar. And because I'm shooting in such a controlled environment, I can work around that and make sure that that's not in the camera a lot easier than I can do it with the Quasar. And even though it's not nearly as bright, it's a lot easier to control, and that's going to be my preference, my priority right now. This is not going to be the item I'm shooting. This is my water bottle that I have down here because I'm thirsty. But coming back to the stand. So coming along, and we've got another one of these that we can use here if we wanted. And then for my last light, we're going to come over. So this is the same thing as that big light, only this is half as long and half as powerful. So again, a lot more flexible. It fits in that little case, and I take this thing everywhere. But this is a Quasar Rainbow Q25. It's 25 watts. I think it has 16 pixels in it, but this is what I'm going to use. I will mount it around here to give me that other key light, and especially when I'm shooting with bottles or anything round where the reflection is going to matter. You'll see people a lot of times with a big single light source into like a tall Godox softbox, or not Godox, but any brand. They'll have this long skinny softbox because they want this column of light. This is going to be my cheat to getting that done, because I'm going to have this vertical column of light that I don't need a softbox to make a vertical column of light. It's just how this light works. So we're doing C-stand inventory. 1, 2, I'm going to use a light stand. I'm back, and I brought a light stand. Oh, Jay, is the audio that bad? Thanks, man. The mic fund, the GoFundMe. Dude, that's huge. I appreciate that. That's bonkers. So I have a slight problem, and that is my light itself, my light stand is too tall. I want this to be lower, but this is as low as this goes. And I just realized how easy my problem is to solve, but I'm always reluctant. This little hot rod camera clamp is a wonderful little clamp. However, I'm always afraid to move it because I don't want to break this. It holds so well, and I've seen people with really bad T12 holders, and I don't want to have a really bad T12 holder. But I could just slide it down. No, I'm going to get the other. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get the other C-stand. I'm over here. So this has been also for Jay, I guess. This is a sound blanket, like a real deal sound blanket that I use when I'm recording the talking head videos down here. And it makes a huge difference. I don't know if it sounds any different here on the mic now, but yeah, this blanket down here works wonders. But it takes a C-stand for me to put it up because it's too heavy for the ceiling clamps. So I'm gonna take off this awful rig. I shouldn't have shown you this. This is a piece of galvanized pipe that I used woodworking clamps to attach it to a C-stand as an extension. So pretend like you didn't see that. But now, what you got? Sound blanket is from Vocal Booth To Go, and it's their website was confusing at first. They have like 4 different blankets that are all essentially the same. The difference being like the odd numbered ones are black on one side, white on the other. The even numbered ones are black on both sides. And then I opted for one that had rivets along the top. And then at my actual desk upstairs where I edit and where I have Zoom calls and stuff, it's a really echoey plaster room. And so I just put hooks along the ceiling that match up with the grommet. So I can just hang this blanket, like drape it on my wall on these hooks. And if I need to take it for production, it's not like permanently installed, nor do I have like stands to make it temporarily installed. But grommets were the way for me. But now we've got a C-stand, and a C-stand can rig things low. Going to the right. Rigging to the right, bring this down. And so now compared to the height of the light stand over here. We can take this off and bring it low. And we can also control the angle a lot better than we could and get it closer without having to bring a stand closer. So now we'll slide this guy around over here. And I'm going to bring it up just a hair. Bring that down. If you have a basement studio that you're filming in, I'm always keen on these. The end of your C-stands can end up sticking out, like down here, it's not that bad. Over here, with this one, you can see the actual arm actually sticks out. And like I said, I wanted to put it over here where I'm not gonna walk, where it's not gonna be a problem. But if you're on set, those things can be a monster. And when Jay and I were filming at the Symphony a couple weeks ago, we had a teleprompter, and the only way to get the teleprompter mounted to the camera was with a C-stand at this weird angle. And so this arm was just sort of going off at this awful angle, like right to eye height, if you're my height. And so we ended up like I just hung my coat on it just so it would be more noticeable so you wouldn't walk into it necessarily. But watch these, because especially when they're black, it could be tough to see in the low light. And if you've got other lights on and stuff, it can look pretty crummy. So make sure that if you've got C-stands, you don't lose your eye, as I sound like my mother or grandmother. All right, I'm going to do a little test here. Well, actually, first, before I do the test, I need to give power to this quasar. And I could do so in two ways. So I can plug this quasar. These quasars run off, you got a barrel connector here, so I can run them off a V-mount battery just with the D-tap. Or I can run it off DC power with this cable. And I think, just that I'm not messing with batteries and having anything die on me, don't you go dying on me, we're going to use that. Yeah, tennis ball is great. I wish I played tennis. Where can you even get a tennis ball these days? Yeah, I should probably just get a tennis ball. I also, everything that I do for Boom is pink, like pink crates over there, pink, my water bottle's pink, my lights are set to pink by stand, all of my labels here on my workshop. I have a lot of pink things and pink tape, and so sometimes it will just sort of make a bird's nest of pink tape, or like make a spiral, like candy cane of tape down it, just so it is more visible. But yeah, I should just get a tennis ball. All right, and this has now put me in the position where I've got some shady power cables going on, but I'm gonna kill the room light and start to see what this looks like over here. So now we're just rocking the Mosey overhead. I'm gonna turn this guy on, and can you see this? Is this over here? Yeah, you'll notice it in a second. So this has some color presets where I can just pick from red, blue, magenta, cyan, all that stuff. There's my beloved magenta. I'm gonna put it on blue just for the contrast right now. But I also have like the full control of hue and saturation. So this could be any color. But I just want to see it with the blue now to sort of get an idea of what this is starting to look like. And really, I think it's time to put a different product on here. I just don't have, I don't want to go cliche and put a lens there. But I wish I had something worth looking at to put on there that's not reflective, that's not dangerous or illegal. But man, I'm really coming up short. All right, Deity's not paying me for this, but I'm just gonna put my Deity mic up on here just to start to get a feel for what this looks like. Let me spin this around. So I'll put this on here. Again, this is not actually what I'm going to shoot, and I think there's one last problem I have with my setup, which I'll wait until just a moment from now to explain. But here we're way too high. That's not going to look cool. It's not going to look great. But if we lower the camera, pull this back. See, I almost tripped on my own cord. Oh, boom hat's not a bad idea. Where am I going to find a boom hat? Oh, when you're right, you're right. What is it? Digital Vision? Is that your name? Is that how you pronounce that? Vision? Oh, and pink tennis balls. Might be a custom order I place in the near future. But Digital Vision, good call. I'm going to lower my tripod. And I could just lower the legs, but for whatever reason, I don't like going down to just like the last thing. I'd rather spread these out to lower it than like just go to the last section of the leg, which is irrational, I know. But now we're starting to look good. And so the last thing that I'm going to do here before I explain my final problem is I'll show you what this is looking like. So looking at it, we're overexposed. You can see a lot of the background, and that's not what I want. And so I'm going to move a couple things, but first I'm going to just start to tighten up my aperture until we lose that black background. And it's tough to see here, and I'll hook up my monitor. Maybe I'll hook up my monitor now. So I'm using a small HD Focus 5 with the built-in Teradek, which is just a great investment. I've made videos about this too. But come to life, there we go. Bring you back along. So here, this is what I'm talking about. Let me turn off the wireless on it first, just to save some battery. We'll go airplane mode. Okay, so if you can see on my scale here, if you're not used to false color, what we're looking at here is the pink is 0, like just absolute darkness, and red is absolute brightness. Like anything over that is clipped, anything below this is clipped, and like perfectly in the middle is green. So as I adjust the aperture, as I open it up, you can see it starts to get brighter and brighter. And if I start to raise the ISO, you can see now like anywhere that's red is completely overexposed. So what I want to get to a spot where the background behind the hat is just nothing, just all pink, or as close as I can get to it. And oops. And then once I've got that, so yeah, it's not showing up super well here on this, but so that is completely pink. Now I can move my light a little bit to start to shed some light on the hat itself. And I'll go back to what it looks like. Well, that's with focus peaking. But so here, yeah, that's what it's looking like lit. We've got the pink bouncing off the logo. Really, you lose it coming through the monitor into the iPhone for streaming. But pink off that side, blue off that side. And I can't really see my rim light at all. So I'm going to move this off to the side a little bit and see if that won't kick onto the back and give me just a little bit more shape to it. And so, yeah, now you can start to see just on the back of the hat there, just that little bit of pink. And these blue and pink spots here are reflecting off the turntable itself. So that would be cropped out in the final shot. And then if the turntable is on, the thing would rotate. So that's the goal. Now, my last problem, as I look at my setup and as I want to do cans and things down here, I'm going to put my hat back on and turn the lights back on. So my last problem with my setup, I love this product turntable. It has a bunch of like fine controls so that I can actually like move things slowly and consistently. But all I can really do at this point is set stuff on it. And if you're trying to film a can or a bottle or something like that, if it's setting on there, you're limited to when you take it into post, you can't like shoot it from underneath because you're always going to miss part of it. And so I want some way to elevate it a little bit. And it's as simple as some sort of, I mean, like imagine a chopstick like taped to it. And the first time I messed with stuff down here, I put literally a chopstick into my power drill and shoved it, like I poked a hole in the bottom of an empty can and put the chopstick in there, and so I could turn on the drill and the thing would spin. And that worked, but I have to hold the drill and like I'm feathering the trigger to get the speed consistent. It wasn't ideal. And so what I want is just some sort of little like harness isn't the right word, but some sort of tiny apparatus that I can lift up a product on and set it on top so that I can shoot it from underneath. Like if it would float sort of up here, like 6 inches off the turntable, that would be ideal because that would give me all the flexibility I need to shoot it from above, below, etc. And my dream shot, let me explain, because as I start to make these videos this week, this is what I'm going for, and I'll try to be more behind the scenes about it. Everything's fine. So my dream shot is to, in like perfect, gorgeous slow motion. I'm going to use this lens as a cliche example. So you see as this light hits the top, when I spin it, the light obviously stays on the top where it's coming from. And what I want to do is have a shot where it looks like like it's being shot from above. And I'll use this. Imagine that this is being shot from above. But I want this to look like it's spinning and tumbling right to the camera. And you get this glimpse of the logo. And then it falls away. And the way that I'm thinking about doing this, because all I can really do is rotate it. I can't do anything on this. Like if I mounted it this way, then it's just spinning. I need those two motions. So one of them is going to be spinning. That's in camera. And then the other one, I'm just going to rotate it in post. But to get the light to be that way, as I film it, because it's going to be just static like this, I'm going to take a light and move the light around it in 360 degrees so that in post, I can sort of make it seem like the light was in one spot and the lens was rotating. That's my goal. But again, if it's like sitting flat on a surface, I can't get underneath it. So I need something to do that. And actually, this is my finale, we'll call it. Come on, let's see. Your screwdriver's hand, 12 screws, nails, tape, your gun has clamps, strap. Maybe clamps and straps. So I've got a couple of these, and these are 2 feet long, 1/2-inch bolts. And they're overkill. They're too thick, but I think something like this could work. If I had a way to put like a washer on top of it that I could affix a can to. But if I don't want to go as simple as popsicle sticks, but I do think that actually would work really well. I could like make a little tiny tripod out of 3 popsicle sticks and have one coming off the top. That could totally work. Is there anything else that would seem more professional than that? Probably not. So that's that's the final challenge. Like that's my goal with this, is to build a setup where I can light it and then do that gimmick where I can take one light, or even like two lights on a little, put them on opposite ends of a magic arm and rotate them both around so that it has that two light thing that I can then counteract that motion of the lights in editing to make it look like the object is rotating. And then sort of zoom in and zoom out so it gets this full tumble rotation into the camera and back out. I think that's going to be a cool looking shot if I can pull it off, and that's what I'm planning to do. So thanks for hanging out, Jay, dude. That's generous, man. I appreciate that. And Digital Vision, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the I'm gonna go look for pink tennis balls and see what I can find, because that's a really good idea. And then my goal is this week, I've got edits that are waiting on clients for the time being. I'm waiting for feedback, and so I've got some time. I've got some time during nap time to, instead of doing client work, mess around down here. And so I want to film with some stuff, go look at it, and then come back and tweak it, film it again, and see how I can improve it and get it to a spot where I'm proud of it. And the last thing that I didn't say, but I've got this black backdrop here. This thing underneath the table there is a pop-up green screen. And I wish I also had a blue one, and that may be something I invest in the future, but we'll see if that ends up being something that I use as a backdrop instead of just the all black, just because it might give some cool personality to it and some more flexibility in post rather than just the black backdrop. So thank you so much for hanging out. If you haven't live streamed, you really should. It's been a cool thing to learn, and it's been a challenge, and tonight was an absolute inconvenience to do it. But staying committed to doing it is something cool for me. And as I look back, and it's been, I think, over 3 months now, maybe 4 months of every Tuesday night, no matter what, streaming live. And I'm learning a ton from it, and it's awesome. But I'm not. It's something that I think a lot of people could benefit from. And so I encourage you to think, even if, hey, no one would listen to me live stream, several of you just sat for 45 minutes and watched me live stream. And so if people listen to me, people listen to you too. And I will too. So thanks for tuning in. Jay, I will not use After Effects. I'm not an Adobe guy. I'll be using Final Cut Pro and the Apple Motion 5 if I need to for anything a little bit more complicated. But we'll tackle that all in another video, right? Thanks for watching. See you next week if you're hanging around. It's going to be Sean Kirkland and I. It's called Orb Talk, but that's just the dumb name we were talking about last time when we were talking about being creative professionals, or at least trying. Have an awesome night. See you later. Thank you, everybody.